Ladies and gentlemen, Kevin McCarthy cannot be the Speaker of the House in 2020 or after 2022 when Republicans or Trump Republicans take over the House and Senate. It will be not only a red wave, it will be an absolute catastrophe for Democrats during the midterms. You have inflation at 9 to 10%? Easily, well over the 8 inflation numbers are actually higher than what they say. So the inflation rate they're admitting to right now is about 8%, 8.9%. What is it? 8.5%. Consumer prices went up 8.5% for a year ended March 2022. That's from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. That's nonsense. So you have inflation at 8.5%, but really it's a lot more than that. And if you listen to Peter Schiff, he's talking about 15, 16% inflation. You have gas prices through the roof, $6 to $7 in many locations of the country. You have a geopolitical nightmare that in many ways had President Mashed Potato Brains simply opposed had he not waived sanctions on Nord Stream 2 and had he simply accepted their request to join the alliance in Europe, or at least been forthright in either accepting or denying their request. I'm not going to get into this. Is not only the fact that he botched the Doha agreement, which called for a May 1st, 2021 withdrawal. Those 13 Americans and those over 100 Afghans should be alive today. There's so many things you could look at. It's the most incompetent, failed presidency. They say that Trump was, but Trump presided over record low unemployment. And he was the first president to step foot in North Korea. He negotiated not only our withdrawal from 20 years of Bush, Cheney, and Rumsfeld foreign policy, but Abraham Accords, first president to step foot in North Korea, hundreds of thousands of new manufacturing jobs, inflation, around 2% or so? Inflation is now approaching 10%. We can go on forever. Life was objectively better with Trump. And when you push to end economic activity, you get the inflation numbers we have now. But also, what President Mashed Potato Brains did was he went into the Oval Office saying we're going to decarbonize the economy, we're going to move away from fossil fuels, and then fossil fuels reach record highs because his policies were horrendous. Then he said, "Oopsie, let's open up the strategic oil reserves and use ethanol with the gasoline and all of these things." And he blamed another country for his failure. There's 14, according to CNBC, there's 14 states suing Biden administration over oil and gas leasing. In addition to oil and gas corporations, if you look at the lawsuits, they state categorically that within his policies are causing an increase in oil and gas. So inflation is he's directly responsible for the problems we have with inflation and directly responsible for the problems we have with oil and gas. It's not you can try to say it's the gas companies, but then read the actual lawsuits when 14 states and oil and gas associations are suing the administration, okay, for blocking leasing. There's like a whole endless list of things the administration did, okay, to protect the planet, which of course then increased prices. Nonetheless, and prices were increasing and energy was increasing before the geopolitical nightmare. Hit subscribe to this channel right now. What am I getting to? 4 minutes in. Kevin McCarthy, there is audio stating, quote, "I think this will pass, and it will be my recommendation you should resign." That's part of audio in a conversation with Liz Cheney. Now, I'm not going to get into the events of that day. Terrible day, catastrophic day, but that day happened all throughout the summer. daily, okay, all throughout the summer. Kinzinger, who voted over 90% for Trump, and Liz Cheney, who voted over 90% for Trump when they were in Congress, are complete hypocrites, as are all the Democrats. You look at Wikipedia. So hit subscribe to this channel. I have a very important segment on the stock market crash channel. I wrote specifically in October 2021, I wrote in the Federalist exactly why the Democratic Party's policies are going to lead to a stock market crash, which we're going to see, but also bring us into a recession and the economic demise we're seeing now. I wrote about that in the Federalist. It's in the pinned comment. Also, hit subscribe to this channel. We are like 20 subs away from 196,000 subs. So hit subscribe to this channel right now. Hit subscribe to the Stock Market Crash channel. That's below in the pinned comments. It's now officially a featured channel associated with this channel. And that's below in the pinned comment. Also, I will have another hilarious segment on Indict and Imprison 45, which ties into the congressional hearings. The congressional hearings don't address an interaction. You can't speak directly and just say there's an interaction between Ted Cruz and a representative of the Federal Bureau of Investigation in Congress. They can't tell the world how many agents were there that day. I'll leave it at that. But Kevin McCarthy apparently doesn't have Wikipedia. Neither does Liz Cheney or Adam Kinzinger or any morally superior, liberal, wonderful, highly educated liberal Democrat. These people, if they went on Wikipedia, okay, the demonstrations of that summer, okay, this is in Wikipedia, okay, 14,000 arrests, okay, there weren't 14,000 arrests caused by Trump, $550 million in property damage in Minneapolis, but throughout the country, $1 to $2 billion in insured damages in the United States from May 26th to June 8th of that year. Okay, you want to know how many lives lost? 19 lives lost. This is in Wikipedia. I'm not making anything up, and Wikipedia has a bias, a left-leaning liberal bias, like beyond belief. If you look up any conservative that has ever been disparaged by the Washington Post or even even left-leaning publications, that's the first thing you'll see in their bio. Not so for anyone who's criticized by a conservative publication. Anyway, that's just one example. But even Wikipedia, you can look. Trump didn't cause 14,000 arrests that summer. And by the way, you had Democrats, I believe the vice president, bailing out people. Now, do I agree with why there were protests? Absolutely. I did state that. Okay? I did state that. And so I agree, but there's nothing worth 19 lives lost and $1 to $2 billion in property damage. So I agree with why people were demonstrating, the cause, but I don't agree with Democrats, media, Kinzinger, Cheney, and McCarthy ignoring Kevin McCarthy, ignoring the $1 to $2 billion in property damage throughout the country. You can listen to the audio. He basically says he's trying to be a sympathetic voice to never Trump Republicans. You would never find this with Nancy Pelosi. If the reverse were true, and if it was a left-leaning organization that day in that location, 2 years ago, and the same thing took place, you would have Nancy Pelosi saying, you would never have Nancy Pelosi recorded. And how McCarthy gets himself recorded, I don't know. Why he's talking to Liz Cheney, I don't know. But the man is, if Republicans keep this man as Speaker of the House, they are simply asking for, I don't even know, like, it will not be good in terms of Trump's chances, let's say, or Republican chances in 2024. You need a Jim Jordan or a Devin Nunes or somebody. No, well, Jim Jordan, Devin Nunes. You need a Jim Jordan or somebody, Rand Paul. You need somebody that is a Trump Republican who will take things in perspective and look at what's going on and look and say, okay, look, wait a second. Why are Democrats silent? Why is everybody from Jimmy Kimmel to Kinzinger, Cheney, Nancy Pelosi, why are they all silent? With 14,000 arrests and $1 to $2 billion in property damage and 19 lives lost in the summer, but they have only focused on this. And why are they still trying to blame Trump when the Federal Bureau of Investigation essentially already cleared him? Okay? Give me your thoughts below. Hit subscribe right now. This is like, you cannot have this. Nancy Pelosi would never. The way Democrats are is they're united beyond belief, even when the entire world says, hey, wait a second, your policies caused our economy to go into a recession, which is obvious. I wrote about this in last year. Their foreign policy, economic policy is a catastrophe. So with Trump, they're obsessed. They blame everything on him. And then you have a person like Kevin McCarthy lending a sympathetic ear, getting taped. And it's like, wait a second, were you not there that summer? Where were these people when there were curfews all throughout that summer? Again, I support the cause, but not the destruction and the loss of life. Give me your thoughts below for that summer. Now, what happened in January was terrible, but that day was like every day that summer without any condemnation from Democrats. Give me your thoughts below. Hit subscribe to this channel right now.